Welcome everybody to the 11th Pokemon of the week. Daniel here as ever, and the Pokemon that I hinted at very much previously is number 11, Alakazam, number 65 in the Pokedex. It is very much in the OU tier, and it is very much there for one specific reason, one of its abilities. And we'll go into those now. Alakazam can have 3 abilities. 2 of its normal ones are Synchronize and Inner Focus. Synchronize means if Alakazam gets burned, poisoned, etc., the opponent gets it so long as they're not immune to it. And Inner Focus protects Alakazam from flinches. But in OU, neither of these are ever used, because Magic Guard prevents you from being hit by any type of passive damage whatsoever. Which means that in OU, common things like Sandstorm don't touch you. Being poisoned by toxic spikes does nothing. If anything, it's a benefit because you can't be put to sleep. So in general, it is very good, especially because it prevents Life Orb recoil. We'll go into how you can utilise that later. Looking at its base stats, really, if the base stat totals to go by, it's only very average, but the 2 stats that matters for it, it has very high bases. Its special attack base of 135 is enormous, and its speed of 120 is also very impressive. You will notice throughout, however, that because of the speed base, Timid is going to have to be the nature of choice throughout. Being a pure Psychic type, it has 3 weaknesses to Bug, Dark and Ghost respectively, and 2 resistances, Itself and Fighting. Pure Psychic comes with no immunities, so there's no entirely safe switch in. The first set is the set that you will pretty much see all the time in OU. It's utilising a Life Orb to deal massive amounts of damage, being able to switch your moves, and not take any passive damage because of Magic Guard. The moves are reasonably obvious, but we'll go into them. The choice between Psychic and Psyshock is actually a lot more difficult than you would first think. Psychic is a stronger move, it has a higher base power, but if you run Psychic, even with Focus Blast in tandem, special walls are going to cause you problems, an example for which would be Blissey. Blissey and Chansey don't really fear Focus Blast, and you're much more likely to miss than they are to die at any stage, being that Focus Blast is a 70% accurate move. You do need to run Focus Blast, however, because there are a lot of Sandstorm abusers going on in OU, so you really need a type to hit them super effectively. Psyshock, generally speaking, is the best choice for the Pokemon that gain special defense bonuses from Sandstorm. So for example, Terrakion would much rather face a Psychic and can actually survive a Psychic at full health, whereas it cannot survive a Psyshock under any conditions. To run with your Psychic move of choice, obviously you have Focus Blast, as I mentioned before. Shadow Ball is there to hit all the other Psychic types that are about. Reuniclus is one key example of a Pokemon you'll definitely want to go for. And the other alternative of what you may be hitting is people being brave with Sigilyph in OU, which does occasionally happen but not too often. The last move though is the interesting one, because Substitute will make your ability to predict moves and play the right move a lot easier. All you have to do is come in on something which can't do anything to you. For example, a Status Abuser or Toxic Store, things like that can't do anything to Alakazam, so they'll switch out and you can put a sub up. But if you do have Substitute, you're going to lack a lot of type coverage, which one of your Hidden Powers can choose. Hidden Power Ice is for all the Dragon types that are a massive pain in OU, especially the Dragon Flying types, so Dragonite and Salamence in particular, as well as Garchomp being another quad weakness. Flygon as well actually, so there's 4 you can hit for quad effective damage there. Your other alternatives go for Hidden Power Fire, because that will hit things like Skarmory, Fortress, Bronzong if you occasionally see it. Things like that it hits really well. Obviously it hits Scizor in particular, that's very important if you can catch that on the switch. So they're the choices you would have on a standard Alakazam. Alakazam is absolutely mandatory that Alakazam can 2-hit KO whatever comes into it, because if it can't, it will pretty much always die. If you can't 2-hit KO the Pokemon that comes out against you, you should switch immediately. There is no alternative. EVs are very obvious, maximise speed and special attack, and the 2 IVs there are for Ice and Fire respectively in sort of generic blue of the lightness, and a fiery red. The second set looks almost exactly like the first set, and you'd be right to believe that, it is very similar, but it runs in a slightly different way. Rather than having a life orb and just bashing everything to death, this Alakazam has a focus sash. The reason why this is such a good idea is combined with Magic Guard you can't get whittled down with like a weather effect, a hail or sandstorm. You can't take toxic damage, you can't get burn damage, so a focus sash is almost always going to set off unless you get hit by a multiple hit move. Beware of those because they break through focus sash, like they do with breaking through substitutes. Again, the first 3 moves of the 4 are the same as the previous set, but the 4th move is very much different. Calm Mind is definitely, as the note says there, not to make you bulky enough to take a hit, because even at like +3 special defense, Alakazam's still not going to take a hit particularly well. The reason it has Calm Mind is because it doesn't learn Nasty Plot. It's a shame, but it doesn't. So you use Calm Mind in the way that you would arguably use Charge Beam. You could put Charge Beam in that spot to raise your special attack, and then you hope that whatever you do choose out of your next 3 moves can one-hit kill the opposition. Obviously with this you've got slightly more flexibility with the first set, than the first set rather, simply because you can make a mistake once and get away with it because you've got a focus sash, so your prediction isn't quite as key on what you do, but it does run in a very similar way. Both of these sets so far are designed to revenge kill, and when I came to making a third set I usually try and make a unique one. Alakazam is literally only good at one thing, so the third set is the FBO set, and this is all risk, maximum damage mode. Because you have Magic Guard, people will assume that you either have a focus sash or a life orb at all times. They will pretty much never expect anything else, so you can use this opportunity to get even more damage out of your Alakazam by using choice specs. Obviously the big downside with this is that you can't switch moves, and if something like Tyranitar comes in when you've chosen Psychic, you're dead because you're going to get pursuited on the way out and you're going to die. So you've got to be very, very careful. If you make a mistake once, as it says at the bottom there, you're probably going to die in OU, because there are so many Pokemon that just are purpose designed to just beat generic Psychic types. There are a lot of Psychic types, or at least part Psychic types in OU, so people will always have workarounds to them. So using this immediately off the bat is not the best idea. Save this for sort of mid-game, where you've scouted out what could potentially either pursue you to death or counter you, and then you hit that as hard as you can. The moves that you can choose from, I mentioned all of them apart from one in the first set, and that one that I didn't mention was Energy Ball. The reason you might pick Energy Ball is because Gastrodon, Mudkip, Swampert, too many memes, and Quagsire obviously just will mock you if you have Hidden Power Fire, and they all will probably survive quite handily with Hidden Power Ice. So Energy Ball is for those. There's a fourth alternative I've not put there because I don't recommend it, because Alakazam, back in the days when there was a physical special different type of split, you could run things like Thunder Punch, and you can't run that now because it's physical, and you also can't run Thunderbolt because it doesn't learn it. It's a Psychic type that, unlike Gardevoir, cannot learn Thunderbolt, and Gardevoir is the Pokemon that we're going to bring on to next. So I hope you enjoy it then, and peace out for now.
If you enjoyed the video you've just seen, please join my Facebook group and follow me on Twitter for the latest news.